Alright guys, we are back here and I currently have Steam open because with the Path of the Herald character creator app I am actively working right now to get a Steam page up, going through a bit of the hurdles and whatnot to get this page actually active on Steam, but I figured I'd show you guys at least where I'm at right now with it. I currently have it uploaded on Steam. Page is not public right now, it's still private, but I was able to download it and test it out on my end, and if I run it, it runs the app just fine. Exactly the same way that I have it when I open it from my local. And I wanted to share with you guys today a bit of an update. Previously, you could create characters and you could view the character sheet. You could adjust the HP this way and that. You could take a long rest. It's got a couple of details on it. Hit the long rest and you'll restore HP and your temp HP resets. That's kind of what the long rest is right now. It is a slow healing of only 1 HP per long rest. That's going to be the default difficulty setting for this type of game. It's meant to be a bit of a harder situation than normal, than something like D&D, for instance. Additionally, you've got a couple of traits here which you got from the different maneuvers. Now, I have the Spear and Shield and the Sword and Shield, and both of those currently have the advantage on all block skill checks, so you see that twice here. I'm going to go through a couple of things trying to make sure there aren't duplicates like that, but for now, it's a lot easier to not do that and work on a couple other features that I'd really like to include in this app. And currently, right now, I've added a brand new implementation. As you can see here, we can now roll skill checks. And this is the normal skill box here. If we look at athletics, you'll notice it's not currently checked. You can check it or uncheck it. And during a long rest, all of your skills, maneuvers, and spells that are checked have a chance of leveling up. Now, when I have this open, and I have this nice little dice here, if you click on the dice, you can see that I rolled a 10 and my skill level is 80, which means I have all of these options available based off the dice roll. But if I get a little bit less lucky, you can kind of see a little bit how the system works now. So when I roll a 72, if I add 0 to that dice roll, it's still under 80, which means I can absolutely do this. However, if I try to add 10 or more to this 72, it's going to go over 80 and I'll no longer be able to actually do any of these skill checks. And that's kind of how the entire system works. But in addition to adding the nice little dice roll mechanic and showing kind of what this looks like when you do so, go ahead and close this out and you can see it automatically checked this skill because I rolled the dice and I succeeded. Now if I pull up something that I have pretty low on the board, let's go with devices. And I roll this and I got a 43. None of these are available, and because of that, there's no check mark. So it only gets checked when you succeed on the dice roll. And we will see this reflected if I can get lucky. Man, which is not happening. There we go, we got an 8, and it is checked right here. So that's kind of the new mechanic here. It works with all skills as well as with things like the javelin. And you can see when I try to use the javelin, I can just stab something for a d10 of piercing damage. Range is only 1 hex, and I can only pick 1 target. And if I get a little bit luckier, and I say, for instance, on my turn, I'd like to use the javelin, DM says go ahead and roll for that. I rolled and I got a 35 out of 60. So my options here are option 1, 2, and 3. This is the free, novice, and apprentice level of the skill. So at this point, I could just deal a d10 of piercing damage, or I could do a d10 of piercing damage and make something bleed, and the duration of the bleed is 1/20th of the maneuver level. These are both stab attacks, so I could do either one. This just adds a bleed effect, so there's not really a point to pick this one over this one. And then over here at option number 10, this is actually a ranged throw. So if I throw it, I'm no longer wielding the javelin, and there's range equal to 1/5 of my maneuver level. Now my maneuver level is 60, so right here that number would be 12 hexes away. So I can throw the javelin, or I could stab and bleed them, or I could just stab them with no bleeding. Now, most of the time, nobody's going to pick that, but I could see some role play instances where you actually don't want to be too cruel and you don't want to bleed someone dry. Sure, but that's kind of the way that all of these are going to work. Additionally, I've got the maneuvers in kind of a light red tint, spells in a bit of a light blue tint, and skills in a light yellow tint. I mean, that's a bit stylized and makes a little bit of sense. Additionally, if we come over here to mages, we can take a look at necrotic damage here. I'll go ahead and roll that. You can see I've got these different options here. Spells maybe are a bit more complicated. There are things like a giant 3-hex radius centered on 1 hex. Things like that. So different spells are going to do different things. Necromancy, for instance. Roll a 6. That means I've got full access to all of these. And this one is just gain control of any undead. Only lasts for 1 day. Etc., etc., etc. So you can do all sorts of stuff like this. These are the different skills here that got checked. And if I go ahead and try to do a long rest, nothing happened. All right. Let's reduce that down, get some temp HP, and I'll go ahead and check all of these spells. Now, in order to level these up, the mechanics behind it is that for every one of these that's checked, I make a skill roll, and if it's higher than the number I have, that will go up by 1. So it is not necessarily easy. Temp HP and HP got reset. Go ahead and bump that up as well. Come back down. Try again, see if we can get lucky on the 60s. Not looking like it. Man. Of course it would happen when I'm trying to record. Man, these are really not wanting to. Finally, Necromancy and Necrotic leveled up to 61. Okay. And you can see these bumped up. As these go up, these numbers are also going to adjust because they are calculated from this number right here. They're not saved individually. So just bear that all in mind when you're looking at your character. Additionally, if we come back to Fighter, you can see he still has the HP that he had before, still has these checked that were checked before. And if we take a long rest here, he's only going to gain some hit points. Now, rolling above an 80 is harder to do, that's for certain. But I want to take an opportunity here to go over just slightly. This system doesn't have a leveling system necessarily. Once you have your max HP, based off of your resilience score, that's the amount of HP that you are generally going to carry for the entire game. And that's about it. The only things that can level up in this game are going to be your skills, maneuvers, and spells. And you will be able to learn more maneuvers and spells. That is the next thing that I have coming. So look for that in the next update where you're going to be able to learn new maneuvers and spells. Now, practicality-wise, we have the maneuver skill here. And as you can see, right here on the 0, we identify maneuvers. We can attempt to use a maneuver that we have that is transcribed. We don't necessarily have to be the person that wrote it down on pen and paper, but if you have a scroll demonstrating maneuvers, you can use it using this skill. And for the apprentice level, this is transcribing your maneuver in a way that people can actually learn it. So anybody can write down maneuvers, but actually making something useful that people can actually learn a maneuver from, that takes a skill level of at least 20 on maneuvers. Level 30, you can learn a new maneuver from a transcription. In level 40, you can just learn a new maneuver that you have memorized, which would be this. Notice this is a response here, whereas this is an action and these are crafting. So, in combat, practicality-wise, you see someone else make an attack with scimitars. You could, as a reaction, as a response to that, try to learn how they performed that maneuver. You can identify their fighting style. Additionally, if you have it written down, you can attempt to use the maneuver that's transcribed. Now, this is not going to consume a spell scroll or anything like that. It's just going to, if you have it written down on a piece of paper, you can use your action to make an attempt at using that maneuver. A succeed here should allow you to use the level 0 ability of any maneuver or spell. So, that's kind of the mechanics here of maneuver, and the spells skill over here on intelligence is the equivalent of that. Now you'll also notice in spells I have a skill level of 28, which means I'm completely incapable from rolling my dice of ever getting these unlocked, so they're going to start defaulted gray. When I roll, I have a chance to unlock these 3, but I am never going to get under 30 below a 28 when I can only roll between 1 and 100. So kind of already does that when you're looking at things, but this is exactly the same verbiage here for spells as it was for maneuvers, and the master level of these skills is to just create a new spell. Now, practicality-wise, on pen and paper, that kind of means you work with the DM and come up with a new variant of a spell. Spells themselves aren't overly complicated to make, neither are maneuvers. You can look here at Sword and Shield. A short description. They have some kind of passive ability. You should try to have something balanced. That's going to be at DM's discretion whether they approve certain balancing things or not. In general, the rule of thumb is that maneuvers are going to do more damage than spells, and spells are going to have more utility than maneuvers. So spells are generally only able to use a d8 of damage, while maneuvers can range quite a bit on damage. There are some that do a d12, some that do a d10, some that do a d8, some that do 2d6, some that do 2d4. So in general, maneuvers are going to do more damage. In general, spells are locked at a d8 of damage, but have the capability of doing like cone effects or weird statuses like fear or, different things like that. So anyways, back to what I was saying with spells and maneuvers. When you create a brand new maneuver or spell, On pen and paper, you should be working with the DM to try to figure out what a maneuver or spell would be that's balanced. And, once that's done, maybe you have a different version of the fire spell and things like that. On this particular app, what that's really going to mean is that you can just learn any spell whether or not you have it transcribed. So you skip the whole transcription process, you just get to pick from the list of all spells or all maneuvers and learn it. And that is future plans for the next update, so keep an eye out for that. I have updated the itch.io page with the latest build, and I have already updated Steam as well. And the Steam page is under review right now. Once it is out of review, I will make an announcement on my YouTube page, let you guys know. I think Steam is going to be the better option over itch.io, but if you download the app from itch.io, I'm going to try to get you access to the Steam app for free since you already purchased the app. Just keep that all in mind. Hopefully this was pretty informative. A short little video here of progress on the app, what I just wrapped up, what I got completed, and what is incoming. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and I will keep you posted and see you next time.
Herald Games.